And I found that people struggle. They will ask me, and I pause and I'll say, I believe you already know the answer. You've probably asked other people this same question. I want to say, when are you going to start the small, incremental, consistent commitment that is non negotiable for you to begin to get still, present, grounded, and connected so that you can navigate the big things later?
Hey, y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Beauty in You podcast. Today, we are thrilled to introduce a woman passionately pursuing her purpose to ensure that all children receive the best education possible. She is an award-winning author, educator, entrepreneur, widely recognized as a leader in trauma-informed practices. With over 20 years of experience, she has been a trailblazer in supporting nonprofits and executive leadership through systems-based approaches to trauma awareness. As the CEO and founder of Living Strong Consulting, her impact extends far and wide. She is a sought-after keynote speaker, leading her expertise to organizations like Lakeside Global Institute, Penn State Extension, and various K-12 school districts. Her work is dedicated to building organizational resilience and personal strength, empowering educators, parents, administrators, and youth staff to make a difference inside and out. Welcome to the Beauty and You podcast, Dr. Veirdre Jackson. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much. It is such an honor to share space with you, to be able to hopefully share a little bit of my story. I'm humbled. Thank you so much.
I am excited that you're here, Dr. Jackson, and I just cannot wait to hear your journey. And I know you just have so much to share with us. Can you take us on our way to your rediscovery journey and what led you to kind of where you are today?
I would say my rediscovery journey really started when I got really clear on eliminating and dismissing what other people were trying to tell me was my identity. And when I got really clear and allowed myself to spend more time in my faith, to spend more time really with understanding how my body was responding, how playing a broken script over and over again was literally sabotaging and holding me hostage, and that there was so much more inside of me. But because I had adopted a lie, I spent more time discounting what I had to offer as opposed to really leaning into it and offering it to the world. So I would say that shift happened when I really had that wake up call and truly began to understand who I am, not who someone is trying to tell me I am.
Wow. When you talk about your wake-up call, do you care to share a little bit more about what that experience was like?
Yeah, so I had actually spent too long in a toxic environment. Um, my faith is important to me, and so there was that inner voice that literally was telling me it's time to go. But I was holding on, like the vision, the picture of the end product of the nonprofit hadn't fully uh, realized itself. And so I said, I can't leave until I make this vision happen. But it was time for my leg of that vision to end. And I held on too long. And the environment was toxic. It actually wasn't ever going to be what I had hoped it would be. And my muscling through and holding on, hoping to try and control something that was outside of my control, it literally had me in a place where I fell apart. I'm emotionally, mentally, and physically fell apart. I literally, it was a toxic break. from the work experience, and leaving it had me really in a spiral. Like I spent a lot of time feeling like I had failed when actually I had completed the portion of the assignment that was mine. But
Mhm.
because I had in my head, I've got to hold on, and because I didn't finish the picture I had in my head, I just spiraled. I had failed. I had wasted my life. It was, where could I go from here? I sat in a place and that script just kept running and running until, with a renewed faith and a physical shift in my routine and practice, I put a stop to that tape and really began to write the next chapter of my story.
You said something that I say a lot is we are the authors of our story, and we have the ability to stop that chapter and write a new one, and we control our happy ending. And I really do strongly believe that. But it wasn't until I hit my moment too of understanding how powerful I was, like understanding how powerful my mindset is. Before, I was living in an environment where I was doing what everyone else wanted me to do. And somewhere back there, something was telling me I couldn't do it. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. Yeah, I know you want to do that, but you need to stay right here and do this. And what ended up happening was I felt resentment in my current situation, anger, depression, anxiety, all the things. And I realized me holding on was doing more to me inside and outside, because you could physically see, like, what is going on with you, girl? Um, so I had to learn the importance of my mindset, my power, my words, and what I speak into myself makes a big difference.
It's so powerful how some of our darkest moments actually aren't our end, but it's literally the opportunity for us to break forth. And because it seems dark, it actually is our cue for us to really tap into the light that's in us. And sometimes we get so focused on the fact that this is a dark season, this is a dark moment, and we get trapped mentally, emotionally, physically, sitting in the dark, when it's actually that moment we have to activate the light that's dormant in us, unspoken in us, waiting for us to shine. That literally, as soon as the light enters into darkness, it repels it. And you can begin to see with more clarity and begin to get direction. And we get so afraid of that darkness, and sometimes so ashamed of it. But if we shift our perspective, it's an opportunity for us to see how we actually are light in spaces.
Absolutely. I remember people telling me, like, the light is right there. Like, I see it for you. And I'm like, I would get angry. I'm not gonna lie. I would get so mad because I felt like I was in such a place of hurt, and I felt that nobody understood. So I'm like, why are y'all talking about this light, whatever that is, when I'm over here in pain, or I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and y'all keep talking about this light? Like, I don't even see myself getting through tomorrow. Like, each day is so hard. Why are y'all talking about this light? And now I'm on the other side. I'm like, oh, that's the light.
Yes, indeed. Sometimes people don't even realize the role that they're playing, even when we might push them away or push their words away. Having that supportive circle that'll continue to speak into you until you can see what they see. And I remember a conversation, and I was in a really dark place, and one of my former um, employees, and has stayed with me for decades later, was sharing how powerful um, my journey was. And I said, what are you talking about? I just wasted 8 years of my life. This was a complete mess. Like, because I was so focused on it had not become what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And unless I got it to there, all of it was a failure. And I actually hurt him because he was viewing it through the incremental moments of impact, of relationship, of how I showed up every day, of how I was impacting and molding children's lives. How if I had never even started it, we would have never even met each other. And he paused me and he said, if you say that all of that was a waste, then you're also saying our relationship was a waste. And it gave me pause. And I actually never said that again because up until that point, I've been telling everybody, I wasted my life. This was a waste of my life. The sake of my life. Until that conversation, and he shifted my perspective. I honestly believe that actually became almost the pieces that began to unravel the thing that was binding me. I had to really begin to get honest about I was so committed to a plan that I had no control over. What I can control is how I show up every single day with intentionality, with light, with love. And he was trying to tell me that's what you would like, that's what your legacy was. It's not whether or not you got the program to a certain status or recognition.
Right. One of the words you said was honesty. And I want to dig into that a little bit. Part of the framework that I use for my clients is the HEAL framework. So honesty is the first one. It's honesty, expression, awareness, and light, because we're trying to get to the light. But that honesty part is where we stay the longest because it's so hard to not necessarily accept the honesty from other people, but to be honest with ourselves. So how difficult was it for you to be honest with yourself? And what advice would you give someone else that's starting out in their journey and that honesty part they don't want to accept, but it's necessary?
So I might say something that is a little unpopular in this moment, but it literally was the gateway to my healing. My darkness was tied to shame and anger. And I had to get honest about the level of anger that I was holding on to. I had to get honest about the unforgiveness that was literally choking the life out of me.
Mhm.
And I had to process how I was holding on to this loyalty of anger, what I was due, how I was mistreated, when honestly, it was that unforgiveness that was holding me hostage. And I wrestled with it because I wanted the person to pay. I wanted them to say they were sorry. I wanted them to hurt the same way they hurt me. And that actually, all of that is darkness. Like all of that is darkness, which is counterintuitive to the light and the purpose that is who I am. And I had to really get to a place where I got honest about the amount of anger and unforgiveness in my soul. Forgive the person so I could finally live the rest of my journey. Because at that moment, I was shackling my necks to my past. And I was so loyal to being mad, and I couldn't go anywhere. It wasn't until I had this awakening moment of I have got to forgive. They are never going to say they're sorry. They are never going to acknowledge what happened. but I've got to get free. So what does that now look like for me day to day to walk out of this dark place?
Mm, I feel like you're telling my story and it's two different things. Because that forgiveness part, oh, it's so hard. I don't want to forgive y'all. I want you to pay. I want you to hurt. I want you to feel all the things that I feel on the same exact level that I felt them because you need to know what you did to me. That part. And that part is what wears you down the most because they'll say, if you don't forgive for them, you forgive for yourself. And I used to be like, whatever. They need to apologize to me. I'm not. But in reality is I needed in my journey forgive for myself. Because yes, you're right. We tackle it to the past and we still want to get to the future, but we're not going anywhere because we're pulling both ways and we're stuck in the middle. So it's like it's pulling this way, and then you're just like this the whole time, trying to figure that out. And it's heavy. It's all heavy. That darkness
Yeah,
is just
yeah,
just so heavy and you don't realize it because you're
yeah,
right. Once you start being honest with yourself, what is it really? What is really keeping me here? Why can't I move on? And
mhm,
why am I still thinking? I used to think too that the people that wronged me were like in control of my peace because it was keeping me up. So I'd be so upset. And I'm like, well, if they just do this, then I'll be all right. If they just do that,
mhm.
then I'll be fine. And I actually had a boss tell me, Mr. Banks, hi, Mr. Banks, how are you? I actually had him tell me, you could, because I used to come and I got a vent, sir. He's like, close the door, close the door. And he would listen to me. He would listen to me. Like I probably was in this man's office all the time. And he would just listen to me vent. And I remember the one day when he told me, like, you keep coming in here saying, when this happens, I'll be happy. When this happens, I'll have peace. He's like, why are you giving that to somebody else? And I would like shut up immediately
Right,
because I'm
right.
like, oh, he was like, you control that. Stop giving people power of your emotions. Stop letting people see how much they can control you. You control your happiness, your peace. And it's called setting boundaries. And I'm like, whoa, this is why you're my mentor right now. Because you're like speaking some
Yeah,
facts. So happiness and peace, we control that.
yeah,
We definitely control that. Have you experienced
yeah.
anything like this?
So can I actually go back to, because I love, as you've been sharing your story, I'm like, whoo, we are parallel souls. So I've been feeling it every bit of our conversation. Um, there's one more thing I had to reconcile. Again, might not be the popular answer, but it ties to what you just said in how we give other people power over our peace or joy. But I had to begin to really settle in and have compassion for the brokenness that was in that person.
Mm,
Because as I really sat and looked at how they treated everyone, how the organization, nonprofit, was affected by them. Not only was not what I was going to do wasn't going to grow, but what they were leading wasn't going to ever be fully evolved because they had not dealt with the pain that they were carrying. And so the only way they knew how to deal with relationships was through the filter of that pain. And it showed up as manipulation or toxicity, or, but that was the best that they could do. And when I really settled into a place of forgiveness, I also had to partner it with compassion and get really clear that I can never give my destiny, my opportunity, my joy, my peace to somebody else who's broken. just living out, like trying to live. They had never healed.
Mhm.
They had never healed. They were an adult who had never healed and was not open to healing. So now I'm mad. I'm holding on. And now I'm going to be the next part of their legacy of of not of not healing. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm now looking at it clearer because as the light really began to shine and I got clear, I got healed, I released, I tapped in my joy, I started moving. I really began to tap into things that brought me joy. I started running. I never even knew how important running was to my soul and my mind. Like I began to do these things. It became clearer and clearer that their heart was hard. Their heart was dark. And they actually were simply doing the best that they could do. It wasn't right. I'm not saying that it was right,
Mhm.
but to your point, I can't give my peace into that person's hands because they have no idea of what to do with it. They don't even have the capacity to do the right thing with it.
Yep. You're talking to my soul right now. I had that moment, that aha moment too, as well. This individual is broken, and they still are to this day. And that compassion, caring part of it was very hard for me in my journey. I'm not going to lie, but I did get there. And I understand that they're hurt. And they're still hurt to this day. Their actions still show that. But I had to learn to let them be. So a part of me is like, I can look at a situation from the top down. Like I can. Before, when you in it, you can't see nothing but what's right there. But now when you start healing, you're like, okay, I can look at it from the top down and I can look at it. So then I'm like, well, maybe they are hurt. Maybe I can be the bigger person. Maybe I can still, allow this person maybe a little distance away, but still kind of interact. I get it. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. So then I had to
Mm-mm.
go again, like, no,
Mm-mm.
you gotta be gone. You gotta be, I get
Right.
you though. I understand you
I
hurt.
get it.
I understand you're going through. I got you, but you are never gonna heal, and that's fine. But you keep that over there, and I'm gonna stay over here, and I don't even care what they're doing. So I had to, and it was me learning how to find my voice too, because I had my voice in certain aspects of my life. Like I had my voice in my job wise, like I'm able to, obviously I got to communicate, got to get job done. Right. But when it came to like personal things in my life, I didn't really want too much drama. I don't want too much things happening. So I wouldn't always share how I felt. Like, not that bad. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe so I would always like uh downplay how I felt in certain aspects, and I would allow people to bring stuff, again, not controlling my peace, bring stuff in that was just heavy or unnecessary or even more drama. I'm trying to heal, and here y'all are talking about the same thing over and over again, and you're saying those trigger words that I've identified, but I haven't had the voice to share with anybody else. Please don't say that around me, because when you do, in my part of my journey, it bothers me. So it was a lot of work of me getting there to that point, but it's to the point where I realized, like, nope, you got to be out there. I don't care what they're doing. Don't care what they post on social media. Don't share with me. I do not care. That person and me are not even low key connected at all. So keep them there. I get it. They got their own stuff they have to work out. Maybe one day they'll get there, but I'm going this way. And it was hard. It took a lot of time. But yes, I had that aha moment. It just
Mm-hmm.
took a long time to get
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, forgiveness does not necessarily mean that you're going to reconcile.
Hmm.
Like those are two completely different things. And forgiveness is truly all about you, your freedom, your ability to continue to show up as the authentic human you were designed to be. Reconciliation requires trust and healing and honesty. And if those things aren't there, it just means that yeah, you were meant to forgive, but you weren't necessarily meant to reconcile. And
Mhm.
very much the same. Like it was never meant for us to reconcile, but I needed to learn who I was, and even who in my faith, who who the God that I served was. I had a whole complete distortion. And so I really had to create that space so that I could really get healed and hear what is for me
Mhm.
without it getting muddied by triggers and emotional dysregulation and pressure. Like I really had to, and it took me a solid 9 months of
Mhm.
completely being away from everyone and really working on my mind and my body, my joy, all of it.
Which is so necessary. I used to be afraid to be by myself, like just
Mm,
afraid to be alone. And I found that that's exactly what I needed to start my healing journey. I had to cut the noise out and get back to Chiquita. Who are you? And my business, the Chiquita Mack, was born, And so it's crazy when you start like having that alone time, like, what am I going to do? And I used to be ashamed of my story. I used to be ashamed to share anything that's happened with me until I start sharing it and realizing that I'm not the only woman. Oh my Lord, I'm not the only woman in the world to go through some stuff because you feel like that too
mm,
sometimes. And
mm,
that's when I started to connect and really realize like I did not just go through all of that Lifetime movie. I call it my Lifetime movie
mhm.
to
Yeah.
not use it. I feel like I'm here
Mhm.
for a reason, I'm here for a purpose, and I'm here to share my journey. And so that's ultimately what I started to do, but it did start with me realizing that I needed that time to figure out who I was, not what I like to do as a mama. And these kids got me running around all day. But what did I love to do before? What used to make me smile? I love to write. I love it's not hard for me. I just love to write, put things on paper. And I love to paint. I love art. So really getting back to those things that make me smile, that just feel good again. And I see that in my kids. I see they like art as well and think I'm like, oh, okay, wow. But it took that alone time to really figure out who I was. What advice would you give
You know
someone?
what,
Oh, go ahead. Yes,
can
go
I
ahead.
ask you a question, Chiquita?
Absolutely.
Because you also brought up something for me that I had to have a conversation with one of my mentees about,
Mhm,
because sometimes we try to rush our healing by telling our story too soon.
mhm,
And she had been through a lot. She had learned a lot. She was no longer in the abusive relationship. All of those things were true, but then she wanted to start telling the stories, starting a nonprofit, building this whole thing. And I had to pause her because, as her mentor, I could see there were elements that she was getting ready to build something out of her trauma and not her healing. And
mhm,
so I often tell people to, before you start the nonprofit, before you write the book, because we sometimes people write a whole book out of their pain place.
mhm.
And it's, yes, the pain was very real, it should have never happened, and you are not the same person, but are you the healed individual who is now ready to touch other people's lives with that responsibility? Because that hand, that touch needs to be one that is healed, not
Mhm.
one, or even healing, because we don't actually ever get to, like, healed isn't a
Process.
destination, it's a journey.
Right.
But you are not still triggered by the same things. You are not having the same type of habits that led you into situations. So Chiki, I so appreciate um, you sharing how powerful it is, and it just brought back to mind my conversation with my mentee, to just, don't rush it. Don't rush
Mhm.
it. What's for you is for you. It's not going anywhere. Um, just make sure that you are whole and
Absolutely.
well. But it wasn't until I actually, on my own terms, could look at that person and have full compassion and love, not not feeling an ounce of trigger at their name or their presence,
Mhm.
that I knew I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
It's so crazy that you that you even bring that up because in building the Chiquita Mac, there's certain aspects that I would try to, I don't want to say launch, but do. And it just didn't. I'm like, okay, I really want to do this because in my mind, you have the big picture, I have the big vision, I want to do this. And it was not work. It wasn't working. It wasn't work. I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? What is it? I had a few situations happen and I was really bothered by them. And I'm like, oh my God, right? So, okay, you're right. You're rushing, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I started to listen to I call it the voice, but I feel like it's the Lord talking to me. But I say, really listen to my voice. A few, maybe 7 months ago, a situation happened. And I was like, okay, I wasn't bothered. I wasn't triggered. I didn't feel any type of way about it. I did call my best friend but that's what I do. We went and I was like, my point in calling her was like, I'm not even bothered though. Like the old Quita would be like, oh, I can't believe, da, 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 da. And then I'm calling my mom, then I'm calling her and I'm so upset. And at that moment I wasn't. And listen to me. I heard the voice say, all right, you ready? You good. You good. And since that moment, boom, everything that I have spoke about where I want the business to be or what I want to do in the media or what I want to do, this what has happened because I'm ready. So I get it. I am very
Mm-hmm.
ambitious person anyways. Like if I tell you I'm gonna do it, Dr. Jackson, I'm gonna do it. I'm really determined.
Say, say.
And but I had to slow down and I listened to the voice that tells me like, okay, I know you started. Remember when you started that? Okay, it's time for you to pick that back up. It's
Mhm.
you're good now. Okay, cool. I'm good. Before, and I remember like thinking back, like, oh my God, I was trying to figure out who was I gonna work with to do this, or I don't know who's gonna help me get this off the ground. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's somebody there and we connect and we work well together. They're gonna help me. And I'm like, whoa, this is a lot easier than I thought. But that was because I was not ready. He is always on time. Let me tell you, I learned that he is always on time. So don't rush the process,
Yeah.
y'all. Take your time because time
Don't reciprocate.
is
Yeah.
necessary. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
necessary. Oh, I love talking to you.
Oh, it has been a joy, Sakita. It has been a joy.
You just,
You were getting ready to ask me a question, and I interrupted you with a chance of like, oh, we got to heal before we start that book.
mhm. I don't even remember what it was anymore. Let me, you done got me all in the moment. Like, I don't anymore, but I will ask you a different question. I don't know what that was. It'll probably pop up later, but you've really taken me on a journey, but it's awesome. I'm just happy to have this conversation. And like I said, I feel like everything happens for a reason. And yeah, this is good. So I want to talk about your business, your Living Strong Consulting. I want to talk about that. How has this venture allowed you to align with your passion and your purpose? And we already talked a little bit about it, but can you dig a little bit more into that?
So I actually, in launching the business, connected back to the value that I was already putting out into the workforce, and really began to think about, and I had a client who deemed it this, so I'm not being arrogant. Like she said, the way that you discern people's pain is your superpower. So being able to be in spaces and you discern what is what's happening when people are struggling. Like you don't hesitate to when the person is saying, I'm good, and you're like, no,
Mhm.
I know that you may not want to talk about it right now, but I just want you to know that I see you. And then the person is just like, oh, da, 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 da. And she was sharing how on her side of watching me as a consultant, she was like, that's your superpower. And like walk in the gift that you have of discernment, which has really allowed me to work very successfully with any type of organization that touches the life of a child, from school districts to charters to youth organizations to nonprofits to statewide entities to even for profit and parenting groups, any kind of organization that touches the life of a child. I I really believe that if we as adults are well, our children will be well.
Mhm.
And so I invest a great deal of time in trying to help adults understand how to live strong, how to show up in abundance, how to, my latest project that I've been piloting in 2024, and we're going to formally launch an academy towards the end of the year, is it's refill. So it's 6 specific strategies to really think about how we are as human beings depleted, not just tired, but actually depleted.
Mhm.
If we're tired, you could just say, okay, I just need to take a nap or go to the nail salon. When this is actually something else, when we say something is depleted, we actually have to make moves and strategies to refill it. So with the refill, it's 6 strategies, it's 6 movements, it's 6 things that you actually have to begin to do to address your emotional health, your mental or your mindset, and the habits that you are using in your routines to really refill and develop a soul care plan. And so that has been the thing that I feel has been a consistent current literally most of my life. At first, I thought it was just the kiddos, and I love the kiddos. I'm passionate about kiddos. I was a third grade teacher for 5 years. I absolutely am. But what I really believe that is, as we are well, the children will be well.
Mhm.
So I focus on helping adults really live from a place of full of joy, of reconnection, of rejuvenation.
I think that's so necessary. I really do, because I talk a lot about breaking generational curses and not carrying that trauma or whatever I've gone through to my kids. And so the way I grew up is different than how they're growing up. And I know the way my mom's growing up and then my grandma, it goes on and on and on. I know you don't know what you don't know, and you know what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
do think it's important because our children they watch us. They watch every move that we make, and we may think that we're, as adults, doing a really, really good job. I call it the mom face. Like we're just got the mom face, like we're smiling and we're going and we're doing, and our kids already know. They already know. And so focusing on the adults and saying like, hey, it starts with you. You are the change. You have to be in my everything that you were listing, your strategies. To me, it's like you got to be intentional about every single one of those strategies. You have to be intentional about the changes that you're going to make, the routines that you're about to implement, because we're making a big change because it impacts the children and it affects your well-being as well. So thank you. I love that. I love that you're doing that. I really, really do. It's so important and necessary.
It literally, I ask people when I'm coaching them, like, what is what's waking you up? What are you thinking about first as soon as you get up and you're getting your day started? And those are the things, like, I feel like I have such a privilege to be able to do what brings me joy every single day, and to engage in healthy relationships and boundaries and healing with others. So I'm blessed.
Absolutely. Because it all starts there. Like, we always want the big shiny thing. It's so beautiful. I want to get there. And even with my clients, I'm like, that is awesome. And I'm going to help you get there. But we got to go backwards. You're playing.
What happened over here?
We got to talk about all of that stuff over there before we can even go that way. So come on, let's back it up just a little bit. So it's important as we're on our journey to know that our experiences, as crazy as they are, or as wild, or do they have to be so deep? Yeah, I sometimes I feel like they did, because you're a product of your experiences, but you also, there's lessons in that. And if you take the time to do the self-reflection and really gain that lesson, then you grow, even though it's super uncomfortable and no one wants to be uncomfortable, but it's like you kind of got to be uncomfortable to grow. So it's all necessary. It is definitely all necessary.
Yes, I agree 100%. 100%.
What advice would you give to the one listener out there, or many listeners out there, that they just want to change? They want to get on the other side. They want to get to the light. What advice would you give them to just help them get started?
Wow. So the first thing that comes to mind, um, is that your healing is not going to be in the hustle. It's going to be in your surrender.
Mhm.
And understanding that as you really allow yourself to prioritize time and space for your healing process. Sometimes our culture is one that moves so fast and trying to have the right picture and the right filter and the right job and and people are broken behind all of these filters.
Mhm.
I am in a season where I really am focusing on surrender so that I can get clarity. And surrender for us for me, it really begins with something you said earlier that many people struggle to do. And that's actually carving out non negotiable time for me to sit and connect with what's happening in my body, and to begin to learn what the sensory responses are when I'm stressed, so that my body begins to have muscle memory for when I'm overwhelmed in other situations, because I have a daily practice of bringing it into wholeness, into stillness, into grounding, into presence. I have a daily practice. So when that thing happens over there, I know how to begin to bring myself back, whether I'm triggered, whether something goes completely wrong. It's actually recognizing how I have built the muscle memory in the every single day. And I found that people struggle. They will ask me, and I pause and I'll say, I believe you already know the answer.
Mhm.
You've probably asked other people this same question. I want to say, when are you going to start the small, incremental, consistent commitment that is non negotiable for you to begin to get still, present, grounded, and connected so that you can navigate the big things later?
Mhm. Oh my Lord. I love it because it's all true. It's all true. You have to be intentional about everything. And you're right. By the time they get to you, they didn't ask 10 people.
I'm like, this answer. The answer is not going to change. What has to change is your commitment.
Mhm.
You have to get committed to it. It's non-negotiable. But I've got all these things to do. Then you don't want to hear. Stop asking people that question.
Stop asking if you don't want to know. You, the journey, I would say the journey starts with you. The journey begins with you. It begins with you. And when you're ready, you will know. Don't come saying, I'm so sorry. Don't say sorry to me. I'm good. Say sorry to yourself. When you're ready, you will know, but you have to put the work in. The journey is not easy. It's difficult. You're going to cry sometimes. You're going to feel like, oh my Lord, am I really going here? Yeah, because it's necessary. But you have to be intentional. And once you get through it, you get to the light, and it's still more work. It's a circle. It's a continuous circle. We're always doing the work, but now you know how to deal with certain situations when they come. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Dr. Jackson, can you
Oh,
let everyone know where they could connect with you?
absolutely. So, my website is livingstrongllc.com. And the contact buttons and all the different kinds of things that we are doing it's all there. And on social media, it is Dr. So Dr. and then Veirdre, Veirdre Jackson. And if you plug that in, I am on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook and TikTok.
Yes. Thank you so much for being a part of my journey. What a great way to end season 1 of the Beauty in You podcast. This was amazing, and nothing happens by mistake. Like, this was meant to be. And I really feel a strong pull to you, Dr. Jackson. I don't know what it is, but I feel it. And I'm just,
Our paraphrase.
I'm very, very thankful for you. So thank you so much for being here today.
Chiquita, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure. And I just wish you continued success, that whatever is burning in your heart, that you will stay true to it, that you will not doubt it, and that you will just continue to grow and soar and connect people and continue to live abundant.
Thank you so much. I receive it. I receive everything that you just spoken to me right now. Absolutely. All right, you guys, until next time.